Welcome back to another session of finite element methods for fluid dynamics. We have looked at the strong form of a toy problem, and then in the last session we cast it in a weak form. We were able to show the equivalence as well. So, today we are going to cast it in the Galerkin form. So, we want to approximate the weak form. Let me first review for you the strong form of the problem and the weak form of the problem. So, what we had done is the following. We said given f, g and h, and I am not going to write down the details, so these are real valued constants and functions. I am supposed to find a u such that I satisfy a differential equation u comma xx plus f equal to 0 on omega, and then I had two boundary conditions, a Dirichlet boundary condition u1 is g and minus u comma x at 0, this is h. So, this we said is the strong form of the problem, and it involves solving the differential equation at each and every point on the interior of omega. So, just to remind you, omega actually corresponds to this interval 0 to 1. So, this is the open interval, and we have to satisfy the equation over there and then these two boundary conditions. Then we proposed something called the weak form, wherein we said again given f, g and h, I am supposed to find a u that belongs to the solution space, and I am going to define the solution space for you, such that for all the weight functions that come from the variation space V, I should satisfy an equation of the kind A of w comma u, this is w comma f plus w 0 h, and the spaces are given as, so S is the solution space, it consists of functions u such that u belongs to the Sobolev space of order 1, and it also satisfies the essential boundary condition, which is actually this Dirichlet boundary condition u1 equal to g, and the variation space is consisting of all these functions w such that w's also belong to the class h1, and they satisfy the homogeneous version of the essential boundary condition. And then we were able to show that the strong form and the weak form are equivalent. We can actually either get a solution to S and show that it is also a solution to W, or we can get a solution to the weak form of the problem and then show that it also satisfies the strong form. So, this is what we had done in the last class, and I also impressed upon you that given a strong form, the weak form is not unique. It is possible to generate other variational forms, and we looked at an example by saying that suppose we do not integrate by parts, then we would get a little bit different weak form, and of course, then the function requirements would also be different. Just to remind you, these operators A, W, U are defined as, this is the integral over the domain 0 to 1 and the inner product of their derivatives. Similarly, W comma F is the inner product of the weight function and the function f dx. And we were also able to show that the operator A W U is bilinear and symmetric. Today, we want to propose the approximation to the weak form. So, we want to start with the weak form and then see how we can cast it in a framework which can be used to get an approximate solution. So, that is the agenda for today, and for that we will talk about the Galerkin's method. So, here I would like to recall your attention to the method of weighted residual, where we invoke the Galerkin approximation by saying that the trial function space and the weight function space are identical. Okay. So, really speaking, in the Galerkin approximation, if we have to start from the weak form, we need to take care of two things. One is that we need to approximate this weak form, and the other is that right now we are talking about two spaces S and V. We have to somehow come up with one space from which both these functions can be chosen. So, let us do that. So, we will first talk about finite dimensional space. So, we will construct finite dimensional approximations of S and V, and these are going to be SH, which is a subset of S, and VH, which is a subset of V. The superscript H denotes discretization which is also similar to approximation. So, just to give you an idea of approximation, we are saying that if I had a curve, let us say this is a certain curve, and I think of it as a continuous closed curve in infinite dimensions. So, I could actually discretize it by taking some finite sections of this, right, and then I could approximate within each of these sections by a certain order. So, I could say, well, each of these segments could be, for example, piecewise linear, or I could take a slightly higher order approximation and say, well, even though this curve was a very nice curve of a very high order, but I would like to approximate it as a quadratic polynomial, or for that matter a cubic polynomial. So, that is the idea, that of course, this example I have given you in 2 dimensions, but we are still in 1 dimension for the toy problem. But the whole idea is that whatever functions belong to S and V, U they belong to S and W's they belong to V. These functions will now be approximated to a certain order, okay? And that's the finiteness or the finite dimensionalness of the space. So, we are also going to talk about the discretization, or for that matter something called a mesh, and we will talk more about it. So, I just wanted to make a note that SH and VH are referred to as function spaces but but this is not really true. The reason being that if I take U1 and U2 are 2 members of, let us say, S, then U1 at 1 plus U2 at 1 would be actually G plus G, which is 2G, and this does not belong to S. If you remember, in an earlier session we had talked about the vector spaces, the function spaces, and we said that it should be closed to addition. So, if I take two members of a vector space and I add them, the answer should also belong to the same vector space. And clearly, because of this boundary condition that both u1 and u2 have to satisfy, their addition is definitely not a member of the same space, and therefore, that is a violation, but we will overlook this. So, we will not overlook the addition as such, I mean the addition remains the same, but we would still call the space as a function space, knowing fully well that it is not really close to addition in the strictest sense. Okay, so it is a little bit of a loose terminology, but that is fine, especially for S. In fact, if you look for the space V, then the space V is fine, because there, so maybe I should write here, space V is fine, okay, because since W11 plus W21 is still 0 and that still belongs to the same space. Okay. So, that is as far as the approximation is concerned, and now for the next challenge wherein we want the trial function and the weight function to come from the same space. So, we will get around that problem in the following manner. We will say that assume VH is the set of all functions as defined. So, we have already defined the space V and a small subset of that is VH. I am now going to pick a function out of this space, and then I ask myself what do I need to do to it so that it becomes a member of the space SH. Okay? And it turns out the difference is only in the boundary condition. So, recall SH is the set of all these functions UH such that UH belong to the space H1 and UH at 1 is G. In fact, I can call this, yeah, that is right. I can put a H here, but that is not really necessary. If you want, I can, so I can approximate the boundary value also, but I suppose I will not do that right now. We will have to do that in 2 dimensions. VH is the set of all these functions WH which have the same continuity requirement, and then WH1 is 0. The question that I am asking is that pick a VH that belongs to the space VH. So, I take a function VH that belongs to this space, and I already know it is H1 and it is 0 at the boundary. The question I want to ask is what modification should I make to this function that it can actually come from this space SH. And the good news is they have exactly the same continuity or smoothness requirement, the only difference is in the boundary condition. So, propose UH is given as VH plus GH such that GH is H1 and GH at 1 is actually equal to G. So, if I take a function GH which has the same smoothness requirement as both of these functions, but then at the boundary it kind of satisfies this condition that it is G. Okay. then I can write that this is going to suffice as a required function, and therefore I can just get away with this one space. Okay. So now I can have a situation where WH comes from this space, and for a given VH that comes from this space I can add another function to it, and that now would double up as a function from SH. So therefore I can say that up to the function GH, SH and VH are composed of identical collection of functions. All right. So, this brings us to one of the earlier examples that we had done in the class in the last session, where we said that if we took this strong problem and did not integrate it by parts. If we did not, then as far as the weak form is concerned, it would involve a second derivative of u, and actually w would not have any derivative. In that case, UH would have to belong to H2 and VH would have to belong to H0. Okay. And then when we want to construct the Galerkin form and we wanted to find a common space, obviously the common space would have been the more restricted of the two, and I would have chosen an H2 space. So here the problem was simple because both of them have the same continuity requirement or same smoothness requirement. If this is H2 and this is H0, then if I want to come up with a space that can double up as a space for both the functions, then the common space would be H2. Okay. So I would have a more restrictive space, and that is why this formulation that we have proposed for the weak form is really a preferred formulation. So let me now plug in this in the weak form. So plug for UH equal to VH plus GH in the weak form, and I would then get the approximation, and that is the Galerkin form. So I would get the following: A of WH comma UH. So the first step I do is I replace all the W's and U's with the discrete values, which means with their superscripts. So this is WH comma F plus WH0 times H. So this is the approximation to W. Remember, W was to be satisfied for all functions W that belong to the space V, and now I am saying no, I am being a little bit more lenient and I do not want to take the entire space, I will take a subset of V, which is VH. So WH, so recall WH belong to the space VH, and that is why now this weak form is an approximation, and we will call it the Galerkin form. So let me now substitute for UH. UH is VH plus GH. Sorry, this is a superscript, and if I plug this in, so I would get WH comma VH plus GH. This is WH comma F plus WH0 times H. I hope you are not going to get confused between this H, which is from the Neumann boundary condition, and the superscript H, which actually refers to the discretization. Now I will use the bilinearity of the operator. So, I can write this as A of WH comma VH, and I take the other term to the right hand side. So, it therefore becomes minus A of WH GH. So, I will now write down the Galerkin form for you, just like I had written the statement of the weak form. So, this statement is given F, G and H as before. I am supposed to find UH equal to VH plus GH, where VH belongs to the space VH such that for all WH that belong to the space VH, I must satisfy this A of WH VH is equal to WH comma F plus WH 0 times H minus A of WH DH. So, from the weak form we have come to the Galerkin form, and if I now look at the sequence of events. So, we started from the strong form, then we got the weak form, but we were able to show that these are equivalent, and then we derived from the weak form the Galerkin form. But notice that the weak form and Galerkin form are not identical, they are not synonymous. In fact, this is an approximation. So, I cannot get back the weak form from the Galerkin form, I have lost something, it is an approximate solution, and certainly it is not equivalent to the strong form. So, now you can see the big picture. If I wanted to use a finite difference method, I would start from the strong form and approximate. If I want to use a finite element method, then I first derive the weak form and then make an approximation in terms of finite dimensional spaces and get my Galerkin form. Okay. So, one could also say that the Galerkin form is a version of the weak form in terms of finite dimensional spaces. In the space VH. Okay. So, good. So, we started from the toy problem, okay, where we had a Dirichlet boundary condition and a Neumann condition, and now we are all set. We just have to choose the correct space. So, the real trick is how do you come up with a choice of the space VH to approximate your weight functions and the solutions, and then satisfy this.